The way things are right now are not sustainable. So your fears will be alleviated a lot sooner than you think. Penny, get out of my room. Now, you know you don't come into the dressing room. Come on out. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. I said, Penny, come out of my dressing room. Zeus, that doesn't mean you can come in my dressing room. Both of you are just dirty from top to bottom. They are dirty from top to bottom.
Out.
Thank you. Just top to bottom dirty and in my dressing room. Oh. Who is this calling on here? I see this is where I'm going to start. That's what they do. It gets real rude waiting on with these telemarketers. They just don't get it. I've been inundated with phone call after phone call after phone call from these people. And if it looks like my responses have gotten about, you know, a little bit angry, that's because they have.
I'm just hanging up immediately because I'm not going to waste my time waiting to get a person on the fucking phone.
You know me, I'm in PMDD.
Oh, I know.
I'm ready.
I'm just saying, like, it takes so long to even get a person on the phone, I just hang up ahead of time.
Like a real person?
Yeah.
I'm trying to block you because you were right in the hallway in my camera.
Dude. Have a video on?
Yes, sir.
Hey, why don't you close the door?
What? Because my door is open so it could be, like, open.
Well, I'm walking through here.
With no clothes on.
Huh?
With no clothes on. Well, this is the only one that was turned towards you, so hopefully nobody saw that. I'm sorry, I got my other phone turned out toward the hall, and my husband was just getting undressed because we're gonna go swimming here in a little bit. But today I wanted to talk to everyone while I was in the mood about a person who is going to get so much of my time and attention, who already has. And that would be Dorothy Vesey. I'm a Vesey. Anybody who's been listening to my music know 3 down, 6 to go, exactly what I'm probably talking about. But I digress. Give me 1 second, guys. Let me get a big guzzle of water. I didn't get diagnosed with autism. Everybody's like, everybody's autistic now. Well, no, it's not that everybody's autistic. Everybody just didn't get a diagnosis, especially black children. So, no, we're just not all popping up here all of a sudden all autistic. But I digress. When I was a kid, I would sit back and forth to live with several people because my father was a pedo. He touched me inappropriately several times. He was also didn't want to be a pedo. So he tried to send me to other relatives while informing them that he had the same dysfunction as the rest of the family. My whole family is pretty inbred. And these days when people are talking about that more and being like, just coming forward and be like, yeah, we're pretty inbred, it's taboo anymore. And I wish my family would have stopped making it taboo, because by making it taboo, they continued the trauma and everything else associated with it. And continuing to tell the children who were survivors of this to be quiet. Well, that's the main reason we're talking. So, that being said, I know a lot of you don't know me, but I'm gonna. But if I have some videos up there in the past, and there's a lot of my stuff on YouTube you can see. But like I said, I'm autistic, and I am the child of, survivor of a lot of essay and such. So my father, after I went to go live with my Aunt Nellie and Uncle Co first. When I was when my father sent me down there in my teen. No, the first people I lived with actually was when my father actually got custody of me and my brother. My mother was a crack addict. She was deeply, deeply, deeply um, addicted to drugs, and she's had some horror and some traumas. She's passed away now, and I've been going through the process of forgiving my mother um, for just being human. And people who can say just being human's a lot of things, especially with me. I say just being human, and meanwhile, my mother shot me in the face when I was 3. The bullet went up here and it came out there. Yeah, my mother shot me in the face. So that's some couple things to heal from there. And I gotta really realize that she also lived in a place of trauma. This is one of my favorite dresses. She was coming from a place of trauma. And so the first time I went to go live in Texas, which is I was in the 7th grade. I was coming out of Memphis, Tennessee projects, and I was poor as dirt, and people in Carthage made sure that I knew I was poor as dirt. Everything from teasing me about my hair, teasing me about my clothes, teasing me about my self-esteem, teasing me about everything. They made me a complete joke at Carthage School. I'll never forget that. But I digress. The first time I lived there was during this time, and we moved. My dad was in a relationship with a woman named Annette, who I thought was going to be the savior for me. When my dad met Annette, he met her in Memphis, right? And she already had 2 daughters, so I thought for sure she'd want nothing more than to welcome my brother and her into her family, especially when she realized our circumstances. No, she used every single word I said about what was going on in my house against me to force my father to choose. And for a long time, me and my brother weren't my father's choice. He chose Annette. And while he was taking her children to school, putting food on their table, making their lives better and good, reproducing another son, my brother was trying to find himself in a way of like trying to find out how to make money, how to survive. And me, well, I was the source of a lot of people's money because I was sold a lot as a kid, and that's different. That's a different tale altogether. So, oh, so the first time I lived with my Aunt Maddie and my Uncle Harry was terrible on my Aunt Maddie. She did not like kids. She never wanted children, and because of the circumstances of the incest that was rampant in her family at the time, I completely understand how she did not want children in her life. And yeah, so she didn't really want us. So it was with me and my brother, like 7th grade. Me and my brother went back to Memphis after spending 1 year at Carthage. I think we were there for 7th grade, and then I returned for 10th grade, was it? Yeah, I think I returned for 10th grade. Do you guys realize what's so funny to me is so many of my most formidable, angry memories are in Carthage, but those were not the years I was spent being sold and abused. That type of pain with autism, I could understand it. I become used to it. The extreme nature of the bullying that went on at Carthage High School was not something I was used to. And so it marked my soul. I remember Christy and Tamika, and I can tell you names and I can tell you stories, and I can tell you how their life has been touched by mine because I remember them. Don't think that everything you do doesn't come back on you, darlings. It does. So, I digress. Sometimes it takes me a while to get to Dorothy because Dorothy did so much damage. I like this. This is part of my one of my costume. What's this say? Is this the one that says it says biter, man? It says biter. There's like a whole cool cheerleader outfit to it. Cannot remember to put this with underwear or with costumes. And I think it should go with costumes. And so anyway, because the other part of the costume is probably in there. But I digress. So, my first time down there, they made my life a living hell. Somebody asked me if I thought a boy was cute at the school, and I was like, Braylon Mumphrey is cute. And then they went back to school and told Matt Braylon Mumphrey that I liked him, and he makes sure he soundly rejected my poor, ugly self for just mentioning the fact that I thought he was cute. And the people on the bus, because I was so gullible, were just trying to get that out of me so they could find other ways to tease me. The cruelty at Carthage High School was, it knew no bounds, especially to what people considered an outsider. I wasn't raised there. And whether I was raised there or not, I was different. I don't know if I hung out with people who had autism then, but my crowd of friends was very limited. For a while, I was friends with a small group. It was Cicely, it was Nisi, it was Keisha, and it was Jocelyn and Shavonda. They were the only ones that were quite a little bit different. And so much so that even not knowing each other for that long, when I left and came back, we were able to make a very good connection. And even no matter what throughout these years, I love those women. Because even if they talked about me, and I know Keisha did for sure, they only did it so they could be accepted too. And it wasn't just talked about in a bad way. I was the whore of Babylon. I was the whore of Babylon. So, that first year that I lived with my Aunt Maddie and Uncle Harry, I think I might have been there part of the 8th grade year. I'm not sure. I dated Jonathan Gibbs. Jonathan has his own story. I've told it before. He has said nothing else to me, so I have no reason to recount any of the history with Jonathan that's bad. He may not have apologized, but there's no reason to keep going into what happened. Not unless somebody else stands up and says it happened to them. And in that case, I'm going to go all the way in because you should be done with that by now. A lot of guys in the 90s thought that, 90s and 2000s thought that being drunk was permission to have sex, that drinking was consent. And with a girl who was as gullible as I am, autistic, um, I didn't know I was putting myself in dangerous situations because I didn't view the situation with the people like that. I used to think that these people actually loved me, but I didn't understand what love was. And so now I know they truly didn't. Um, I was just convenient. I mean, my cousin Tawana, BC, would easily get me drunk and drop me off to friends. Tamika Lewis would easily get me drunk and drop me off to not friends but boys. They thought I liked it. I didn't. I didn't like it. I didn't like being given away. When you said we were going to hang out and just drink and it was going to be us. As a teenager, I used drinking as escapism because how else was I going to escape my reality? But when you guys offered to take me places away and do things with me, I thought it was love. That wasn't love. But I digress. Someone who's autistic and I have ADHD, so it makes it harder for me to stay on subject sometimes. But I promise you, it all builds up to where it needs to be if you just stay along for the ride. So, I went back to Memphis I think that was after my 8th grade year. I was there for 7th grade, and I don't know if me and Chris were both there for 7th and 8th grade. Um, but I know when we went back to Memphis, one of my favorite people in the world, and he would stay one of my favorite people, whether I never talked to him again, Chris Jones in Texas. And when I'm talking, and I always talk about I don't know many safe men, and then I get a memory in my soul of safe men. Let me tell you who a safe man was. Chris Jones in East Texas. That was a safe man. And he was compassionate. He knew where my brother and I were going back to. And he made sure to do what he could to help my brother provide safety for me. Chris, thank you. It did come in handy before it was taken. But they came in handy. And you did, in the long run, provide me with a sort of safety that I could never had at that time before they took it. So thank you, Chris Jones. I digress. So we went back to, like I said, to Memphis. And Memphis was my familiar hellscape. Anybody who lives in Memphis, man, that's Memphis. You familiar with that hellscape. You know exactly what you're about to go through. And I lived in North Nuff. I lived on Valentine, man. I was 955 Valentine. I was all the way North, right across the street from Gussery. Right across the street, I could see the school. The kids could see the school as they were being essayed up there. That was the house that 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, all the crackheads in the world. And because of the traffic, and because all of the beautiful queens in my family who had once been intelligent, beautiful queens, I don't know what made them want to try crack for the first time. I wish I could get an explanation on why they even tried it the first time. I remember meeting my mother's side of the family for the first time when I was young. Like, really, when I was raised kind of with him in Memphis a little bit. My mom didn't always go with my dad when he was stationed other places. He was in the Navy. And these women were strong and queens. They play Pokino. They dress up and go out. They were professionals. Damn it, my Aunt Barbie, we could have been a model. And then I came back and everything had changed. And I didn't know why until later. It was crack. It changed every single one of them, from my loving aunts and uncles and cousins to predators and willing to sell anything, even their soul, even their children. And that's where I went back to, because at the time, I think we were too overwhelming for my Aunt Mattie and Uncle Harry. My Uncle Harry at the time, during that time, and you'll hear about my Uncle Harry more in later. My Uncle Harry, I thought, was a safe man. I thought he was a safe man. Because when I was little, when I came to live with him the first time, he never tried to touch me. Although that my dad was touching me every night, so it might have been just not the opportunity. Right under the roof, right down the hallway. My dad was always in my bedroom and nobody ever questioned it. My aunt questioned my relationship with my brother because she thought we were too close. I got in his bed to get away from my daddy. That's why I was in Chris's bed all the time. We were never gross. And every time she'd say that, suspicious of that, it makes me sick. Because I know that your family has that sickness, and in my blood, that sickness runs, but it stopped here. I would never look at Chris that way. He was my warrior. He was capable of so much more. You know what I mean? He had. But I digress. I get off topic a lot, guys, and I'm sorry. I'm so angry because when it comes to little black boys, it's worse in some ways that your family doesn't really see you, and like, and you're trying to navigate being a man, and meanwhile, the girls, when your family sees you, they see you as a conquest, not as a child. Oh, and so I went back to Memphis to that. That was familiar pain, being sold and manipulated, crack, all that was familiar pain. When and I went back to molestation. Um, my father had custody of me, full custody. My mother barely visited or intervened. He had complete control of me. Complete control. And I am just learning that do you know how long I love that man and how much I still do? Because in my life, he was the only one kind to me. He was the only one that seemed to understand that I was weird and he didn't care. And he was also my first abuser and continued to be so because nobody protected me from it. They just put me in his hands. My father was sickened by what he was doing. It was one night. Oh, this is when we came back to live there because my daddy didn't like us. And this is how we got there in the 8th grade. I came living with my Uncle Peter. And I remember now it gets linear. It gets more linear. I was there in the 8th grade because I came to live with my Uncle Peter. Big uncle. Over 1100. And when I first came to live with them, my Aunt Auntie was still alive. But she was sick. I could feel her loving kindness and goodness in my soul when I was a kid and I clung to her for dear life, but she died. I met her and I went to go live with her and my Uncle Pete, and my brother was there. We lived. Oh, let me get some tissue. I'm sorry. And again, I'd like to shout out another safe man, my big Uncle Peter. The thought never crossed his mind. Peter Allison, safe man. And every time I remember that there was someone safe in my life, and safe, it makes me feel like I'm healing. I'm getting my good memories back too. But we went to go live with my Uncle Peter. And I started liking this boy named Aaron Golden. And I remember when D Berry and Elysian Fields had like a that was long distance calling between Elysian Fields and D Berry. And so I ran up my Uncle Peter's phone bill to like hundreds and hundreds of dollars talking to Aaron and calling Memphis and things like that. And he was going through the loss of his love, Aunt Addie, and it was just too much. Uncle Peter was my big uncle. He was, my great Uncle Peter. And so it was just too much. And he couldn't do it. And It was during this time. You know what? That's a story for another time. I'll talk about Sharia and Monty and all that stuff later. Right now, we're just trying to get to Dorothy. And this is how I never end up getting to her. Because I got to get the whole story there to make you understand that she knew exactly the position I was coming from, who I was, and that she made all of these extraordinarily cruel decisions with malice. So, I lived with Big Unc for a while. And when, like I said, we ran up his phone bill, and Big Unc was like, I can't do this. He's already older. He was lost a naughty. And so, again, we got sent back to Memphis. My Big Unc, I can't see myself ever staying mad at. He was like older then. And then, like, not having a wife after, I mean, I honor what he was still able to do. But it didn't last. Back in Memphis, back with the predators that I know, the predators that I understand, that I know that if I stay quiet, and if I don't resist, they won't hurt me as bad. My cousin Latrice Miller, she's about, I don't know, 5, 6 years older than me. She used to call me a little whore. I was about 12 or 13. I don't know. As a term of endearment. And it wasn't because I was a little whore, guys. It's because I was artistic and I was trusted. And I was easily used and taken advantage of. And you should all know that it's not your fault. Stop blaming yourself. You know better. You do better. As you get older, you learn to protect yourself. So, back in Memphis, my father's molestation became rampant. During that time, my body was more attractive to him. And he became sickened with how he was behaving. And so he called my Uncle Seal. And he just married, Uncle Seal got married, just married my Aunt Nellie. And I distinctly remember him telling my Uncle Seal, although my Uncle Seal swears he doesn't remember, that he was experiencing the similar sickness that his father experienced when it came to wanting to do things to his child. I could have swore that I also, when I moved in, shared this information with my Aunt Nellie before, like after I moved in, but I digress. I went to go live with my Aunt Nellie and my Uncle Seal. And that's when I found God. I was in church every Wednesday. We were there for cleaning the church on Saturdays. We were there for business meetings sometimes. And for a moment, things were going okay in my life. After everything I'd been through, I'd had a sense of stability. I remember when I first got there, my Aunt Nellie took me to go get my hair braided. And she cared about how I looked at school. She made sure I had good Easter dresses and things like that. And then came Lamont, Lorenzo Lamont Leary, who had a life with parents that loved him, and things were great, and he had stability and his 6 brothers and everything. And then he decided that he wanted to have me. He was maybe 19 at the time. I was 14 or 15. And he love bombed me. All these messages and letters and things like that. And he zoned in on a child who was broken and just love bombed me, and to the point where I was like, oh my gosh, he just really cares about me and stuff, right? And so My aunt and uncle were completely against it because of the age difference. And they should have been because Lamont was being predatory. I wasn't the first girl that actually he had started talking to a girl in the church that was younger than me at one point, but somebody's family knew to come and correct that, and so blessed be to Tasha's family for fixing that problem. Um, but I fell right into his it was easy. I was autistic. I was broken. I was used to being used. And he told me he loved me. He used to write me long letters. And so I defied my uncle and my aunt. And I snuck out with them aunt. And I snuck around and I lied. And my Aunt Nellie couldn't deal with it. For some reason, she started to think that I was evil and bad because I wasn't honest with her. She never dealt with teenagers before. And it seems like I always make excuses for them. But excuses are not always excuses as reasons. And also, the music in her background, what was going on in her life at that time, was totally disrespectful. I mean, my uncle was literally calling her by his ex-wife's name every other day. Then she had to deal with this fast-tailed girl who came to live with her, sneaking out with a boy. And so, after that year, I got sent back to Memphis with everybody knowing. At that point, everybody knew my dad was raping me. They knew. And they can say they didn't know, but it's easier to say you don't know and to live with yourself than to say you know you sent that child back to someone who you knew she was going to assault them. So much easier. And you know what? It's easy if it saves you to forget. It helps you breathe. But I tell you what, my memory being what it is, I didn't forget. I would sit back right to those vultures. But this time, after so much abuse by the vultures and so much abuse by my father, I begged to come back to Texas as soon as I could. And not only just for that, I was pregnant. I was pregnant with Lorenzo Lamont Leary's baby. It was during this time, like I said, I'll tell you more about Sharia and Lorenzo later because that's a story. They deserve their own love story since they had such a beautiful one. Sharia, my cousin, who I thought cared about me, but I guess we all think stupid shit sometimes. And Lorenzo Lamont Leary, the one who told me you protect me forever. Even after I was tried to commit suicide when they tried to keep us apart, I overdosed and had to go to the hospital. But I digress. I keep saying we're not here for those people today. We'll get to them. We're getting to Dorothy. So that's the history. When I was and then I went back to Texas. Only I came back to Texas to live with Dorothy after all this. Now Dorothy is the ex-wife of CLVC. Dorothy and his wife are divorced because Uncle CL was caught in the midst of sexually abusing his daughter, and Dorothy shot him in the chest with a shotgun. You'd think that with that type of reaction that she'd be a good person. Somehow my family covered all that up, and that didn't make her a good person. She continued to allow her children to be around that man alone. She continued to allow a lot of children to be around that man alone. As a matter of fact, I have a lot of questions about him and Tawana's relationship that I'm going to ask the universe because that might be the reason for a lot of things, wouldn't it? So, I was sent. I asked my Aunt Dorothy to come live with her. The first time I came to live with her, I was accused of being. The first time I came to live with her, I was raped by an older boy in her house. And she blamed me. She looked at me and told me I was the devil. And it was my fault. And that it's just an incident at her home. And I'm just this harlot. And everybody's telling her that she has the devil living in her house. And she'd reiterate how I was the devil all the time. She never fed me. I couldn't have been more than 105 pounds. I survived off strawberry jam that my dad used to make and toast if we had bread. If not, I just eat strawberry jam. Um, she took every single opportunity to cut down a child, to tell me how worthless I was. And I stayed because it was better than being in Memphis. After the rape, she blamed me and kicked me out. I begged her to come back because I didn't want to be raped in Memphis over and over again. And she said, okay, I'll let you come back if you can prove to me you got therapy. I got therapy. And I heard what she was saying to the therapist about me. How she sounded so proud and indignant about the fact that she knew I was being sold for drugs and money. How she felt like it was my fault. How that was making me evil. And I want to tell you, Dorothy, I got therapy, but you weren't talking to my therapist. You were talking to my mama on the phone, Dorothy Vesey. Dorothy Vesey, when you thought you were talking to my therapist on the phone, you were literally saying these things to my mother. What do you think her soul felt? What do you think her and her infinite wisdom and the blood of who she is did in response? The things you said about me was so horrible. And the fact that she was so lost and dead on drugs. My mother tried to kill herself after that phone conversation. But I couldn't stay in Memphis. I had to stay in survival mode. So Dorothy gracefully allowed me back into her decrepit trailer home. The first day she allowed me back in the house, I had a few clothes. And my most prized possession though was this pen. It was a black pen, and it said Apex Products, Memphis, Tennessee. That's because my father was a manager at Apex Products. They made all that, that stuff for braids, that inch braid, and they made the hair grease and stuff like that. Yeah, I used to go there, and he was like on the assembly line, and he was the manager there, and it was like, so the pen was from my dad, and I remember Sheila, Dorothy's daughter, Sheila Vesey, coming into the room, taking the pen, and then going to her mother and saying, see, that's why she can't be here. She steals. This was mine. This was my pen. And I think she stole some of my underwear out the dryer. All I did was turn on the dryer. I didn't steal anything from you, girl. You made my life because you'd come home to live with your mother for a while. A living hell, and you both ganged up on me spiritually. And then you wonder why your life is the way it is now. Wrong was done to you. I get it. But it doesn't excuse the wrong you in turn did to a child. I sincerely hope the physical therapy is going well for you. Because last time I heard you couldn't walk and you would never walk again. And Sheila is another one of Dorothy's children. Just like my cousin Steve, who I love very much, spent several years in the hospital, dying slowly fading away as Dorothy watched. Do you not think
But the universe didn't see you, Dorothy. Two of your children, one of them absolutely paralyzed, and the other dead for no apparent reason, no real trace back of the sickness. The other one considering continuous universe of chaos. And your other one, well, he doesn't want anything to do with you. And your grandchild Rogers River, who murdered that poor girl in Elysian Fields, that's your legacy. You see, we all are a product of our choices. So the second time I came to live with Dorothy, she was opening up the Purple Passion. It was a juke joint in Elysian Fields. I was dating Aaron Golden, who I'd eventually marry. Roderick and was it Kamante Kiyoki came over and got me drunk on moonshine, saying they just wanted to come and hang out. The other one watched as the other one assaulted me, but somebody came home and it broke up the party. You see, in Memphis, I knew what to expect. In Memphis, I knew the predators, and I knew I was prey, but in Texas, it was very confusing. You see, there's a difference between a crackhead pedo and a Christian pedo. Christian pedos give you more faith that they're not. When you're younger, you really think that they're not going to hurt you or do bad things. But that's just a myth that they hide behind. And the ones that are on drugs, they are lost and broken. And they don't care who else they lose or break, because they can just do more drugs and get rid of that feeling until they come out of that cycle of trauma. So, this is when Dorothy went and told everybody in the world that she could speak to how I deserved to be raped. And not only that, she went to the Marshall police office, told them that I made it up and had the police charges dropped that I'd filed against the boy who hurt me. I finally was brave enough to open my mouth and say it wasn't right. And Dorothy called me a liar and went to the police officer and said charges aren't necessary. And that's why he stayed free. I think he's dead now. I don't know if both of them are dead, but I'm absolutely sure one of them are. One of them is dead. And that's the thing. People say vengeance is God's. Well, have you ever met your mama? Vengeance doesn't belong to man. And I'm not finna wait for God. I'm not finna wait for the afterlife in order to get healed, in order for salvation. I'm not gonna give you a pass because you got forgiveness from God. I sought forgiveness from God, so we square, right? Have you sought forgiveness from me? Oh, I'm not God, so it doesn't matter. Then I'm going to be God when it comes to you, when my hands are upon your life and everything you love is withering. Nothing's a coincidence. Even Christy's husband, Johnny, spending all that time in jail, that wasn't a coincidence. And Christy's cheating, not a coincidence at all. There are no coincidences. There's orchestrated chaos. So, Dorothy, after leaving me horror and gossiping from everybody from the mountaintops to discredit me, kicked me out of her home in the middle of the school year. And Aaron went and begged my Aunt Maddie and Uncle Harry to take me in. By that time, my entire reputation and anybody who knew me thought I was just a liar and a slut. And so that's how I was treated by everybody who came in contact with me because they knew they could get away with it because Dorothy gave the segue for it in Texas. Dorothy VC, you're going to see a lot more. Astra's not done with you yet. When you see, I save you for last. Because I've been savoring your life. People can say it's wrong all day long. People can say that vengeance is God's and that we shouldn't be looking for vengeance and we should just be accepting and understanding. As a mother, how accepting and understanding would you be to that type of destruction to your child's soul? And what would you be willing to do if you could access the power? For me, I didn't know anything about myself for a long time except that my father told me I was a traveler a long time ago. And I didn't quite know what that meant. But I do now. I have seen most of my family, especially the ones that have issues with me, and some of them I pass people in the dreaming, and I see what's coming. I figured out my name in flame. I know my name written in flame before the stars were born. Which lets me know that you've disrespected a goddess. You disrespected a goddess so soul deep that she didn't even know how to take a shit until she was over 40 something because she was always afraid. Do you really think that all of those terrible, terrible, questionable things that we do never come back? They come back so hard and in others so vicious because mother, she tries not to teach the lesson. Asher doesn't try to teach the lesson through you. She teaches the lesson through your children. Why watch you suffer when you made a child suffer? Nothing in this universe anyone gets away with once they understand Asherah and who she is. Nothing. The problem is, Asherah has been buried so deep. We in this world argue about whether or not a man can give birth to a woman, and we've always come up unequivocally no. Why do you think a male deity can give birth to you? Because he's male and he's magic? Why do you think that everything in the Bible warns you against women? It's not because women are bad. It's because we've been written out in ways that we never should have been. And once you get back in touch with the true Creator, and you align yourself in Asher, there's nothing anybody can do anymore because now Mama's coming. Mama's coming. And Mama's watching. And she's been watching the entire time. People always talk about, Jesus coming to the door poor and broken and completely needing your help, completely dependent on what you do and how you help. This is what you guys did. When a child came to you, even after experiencing such horrors in your own life, and then to later in life try to silence that same child. Well, what do you think Mary and Louise would think after the leukemia, after the numerous beatings, after dragging you guys around on cotton sacks as babies. Do you think that she approves of this silence? Have you ever asked yourself that the woman who endured 9 children and beatings and watching her children be hurt, do you think she approved? When D-Berry was evergreen, Grandma had never had a chance. Even before that, even after that, Grandma never had a chance. But you always got chances. Every child that came from her portal got a chance. And when you guys saw the same repeating patterns in your own bloodline, you lied, you denied, you disowned. When the only thing that would have taken to heal this generation would have been a generation of truth tellers. People who will go on and say how damaged our lineage has been and how long this madness has run in our blood. The madness that assailed the VCs and the Kenners no longer abides in my temple. And I pity my line because I came to you unbroken, completely available, artistic and acquisitive, waiting for your correct programming to help me become who I'm becoming now. Because of the way things have happened, your programming has caused other things that shouldn't have happened in a person like me. Things that I shouldn't have been capable of. I didn't program those programs. You did every time you abandoned me and told me that I was a war. That what happened to me was my fault. I will never be that Sabrina again that anybody ever knew because that Sabrina never existed. That Sabrina never existed. And as a matter of fact, Sabrina never existed. In a world where I have DID, Sabrina has been my altar. She has been the one to represent to the universe. She has been the one that's come to you on her knees with her hands out. She has been the traveler. Those of us inside of her are the witnesses. And what we've witnessed so far has been extraordinarily disturbing, to say the least. What we witnessed so far just through her memory system, just through her body, lets me know that this is going on in a lot of places. The type of soul degradation you guys are doing to women, the things that are being taken away, are intentional and on purpose. So we can never look in a different direction other than fight or flight, other than when the next piece of pain or the next shoe is going to drop. Once we learn to release our sympathetic nerve system and activate our parasympathetic nerve system, and you feel those isotonic waves of release go through your body, of all that pent-up womanhood, all that it was your fault, all that, what were you wearing, all that questionable, I was autistic, but maybe I should have known. No. You shouldn't have known better because you weren't born to know better. You were born to be better. And the people who surrounded you and who loved you, supposedly, they didn't love you right. Every time I think of the moments in my life where people could have made a big difference. I look back at Dorothy and being raped at her house 2 times. I'd go back to where I was sent back afterwards, but that's another long talk. I was my ex-husband begged my Maddie and Uncle Harry to let me live with them again. And it was so funny to see that they listened to him more than me. My pleas fell on deaf ears. They listened to that man more than me, and that's the only reason they allowed me to come back to their house. In the end, I found out who my Uncle Harry really was because I had boobs now. In the end, I graduated from high school not with my last name, but with a man's last name that abused and hated me. And his family abused and hated me as well. Those notes will forever play like music in my soul. But I won't be listening to the music alone anymore. Welcome to the show. I love you. Ita. I see you. Everybody have a great day, guys. I'm going to finish up in this room. Ita. I see you.